Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 348, and today we're doing battle in a Champions Unlimited Gauntlet. And so it unfortunately feels like for Champions Unlimited that this is actually just the world's first experience playing Eternal as opposed to playing a format that you can just play a bunch of champions in. But nonetheless, we've been having loads of fun with this as this first experience to really have a good time with these Eternal cards. And so if you remember back during spoiler season for the release of Glory for Navori, we didn't know what was going to be rotated out of the format, and one of the big ideas was how we could best take advantage of cards like Sett and take advantage of cards like the Old Timer. And so people pretty quickly figured out this idea of a combo that you could use with the Old Timer. If you're not familiar with him, he hasn't seen any constructed play up to this point, but he's a 6/6 with double attack. When you play it, he recalls the strongest enemy, but if you've played 16 mana on this turn, you recall all enemies instead. And so there's another, neato trick that you can use to activate all that mana, and that's going to be using the Ice Pillar from Trundle. And so the idea is you play the Ice Pillar, that costs 8 mana, you refill 8 mana, and then you come in and play the Old Timer. So you've now spent 16 mana, you get to recall the entirety of the opponent's board. And so that's kind of, idea and combo number one that we get to use with the Old Timer. It also ties in kind of nicely with Sett, since Sett wants to see you spend a whole bunch of mana before he's able to flip. But I know you can't see the Sett flip card here, but on the back side of Sett, he says that once you've spent 12 mana within a turn, you get to put the Unstoppable Force into your hand. And so the Ice Pillar is another fantastic way to do that, but the more explosive and fashionable way, if you will, is going to be using Feel the Rush. And so the big combo, the big thing that we're really trying to pull off with this deck is going to be Feel the Rush plus Sett. And so the idea here is going to be we Feel the Rush, that's going to summon forth a Sett. At that point in the game, very likely that Sett's just going to be flipped after we spent all of that mana casting the Feel the Rush. Assuming that Sett is flipped, he's going to come into the board, see that we've played 12 mana for the turn, because Feel the Rush costs 12, and that's going to put the Unstoppable Force in our hand. And so ideally, we're going to have the two 10/10s. We're going to have the Unstoppable Force in hand, just blow up the opponent right on the spot. And so those are the big ideas that we have coming out of this. There are a smattering of ramp spells that we get to be playing now. Catalyst the Aeons and Voices the Old Ones don't exist in the current standard format, so we're getting to add both of those to the deck. Voices of the Old Ones also doubles up as a card draw spell. Since it looks at the top 5 cards of your deck, you get to draw all of the expensive spells within it. And then the other place where we're getting some new tricks that we didn't have in the old days of Feel the Rush is going to be adding in cards like Smooth Mixologist. And so we have the Kindly Tavern Keeper and the Smooth Mixologist as both early game plays to help stall while we try to get our big ramp spells online and hopefully blunt the advances of the aggressive opponents. The last card that we're getting to add in here is going to be Tag Out. Tag Out wasn't available in the previous days of expensive expensive Feel the Rush decks, but we can most commonly use Tag Out to return our heal units to our hand, but we could also do some shenanigans with Ice Pillars with this thing as well. And so, this is the deck. That's what we're going to be doing battle with today. And we unfortunately haven't been paying the pay-to-win price too much here in these recent times. We don't play too much Ionia around the channel, so everything's typically just covered off. And then as we approached the open tournament, the entirety of our decks were already premium anyways, and so we haven't had too many choices. But the Smooth Mixologist, ready to turn premium, ready to pay up on that pay-to-win price. I'm sure she's ready to help us pull victory down in this gauntlet. So, where are we at? The gauntlet, let's enter. I'm ready. I got the shards. Let's jump on in. What's happening? Why can't we jump in now? Something has changed? What? What happened? Why is our deck illegal? Let's go back and check this out. I thought disaster struck. I thought Riot came in and ghost patched ghost patched the format away to being standard or something. I just had to craft some of these dirty Ionia cards. That's all the problem was. I didn't have any of the old timers crafted yet. That's kind of wild, as we've made it pretty far through the event pass. I'm surprised that they didn't just get crafted naturally on their own. But we made it. We're there. We're ready now. And so we'll see how this goes. One of the ways you were kind of traditionally able to beat these ramp decks was just to be way more aggressive than it could handle, and so the Legion Rearguard decks were quite good against it. And then as I suspect Samira to come in and be really relevant in this upcoming format, we might have ourselves a bit of a hard time trying to get through these games. But we see how it goes. We got all this extra heal now and stuff to go with all the ramp. Hopefully we can overcome our opponents that are trying to play a little bit more of a fair game. So reasonable enough start. We have the Kindly Tavern Keeper, double ramp spell along with the Feel the Rush. Opponent on the even attack token, so hopefully that will stymie their aggression just a little bit. But this does feel like the kind of space to where we're going to be falling behind. As opponent comes down, drops a ton of units onto the board. Starting to make it look a little scary for us. We'll see. We'll see. Here's the reason why we're playing the 3 copies of Wild Mysticism over the only the singular copy of Catalyst of the Aeons. I like to be able to come down and just get this unit on the board. And so it has a little bit of that good early, good late aspect to it, to where we have an early game blocker against boards like this, but then we also get the big 6/6 in the late game. So, scary board from opponent. I was going to say, I suspect he's probably going to open attack on us. He doesn't really want to give us an opportunity to just be dropping more units on the board. Oh boy. That's pretty nasty, my friend. That's pretty nasty. But, let's see if we can't recover right here at the end. This is where we can start to turn the corner against this. We've got the ramp in hand. We've got some big dudes. We're starting to get a little bit of a board presence. Hopefully that's going to be enough. So I'm leaning towards dropping Sett this turn. We're either going to drop Sett or Trundle. Sett, like Trundle is just kind of ignorable, but we are also in this spot to where opponent doesn't really have to block, and he can just refill his board if we hook something in. And so Teemo is like kind of a juicy hook, but I think I'm really just hoping that we pass the turn and he doesn't do anything. But I guess the last kind of option and consideration here is we do have the mana to play Winter's Touch, and so that gives us the potential to do a little bit more next turn. But my thought with next turn is, you know, we have Catalyst of the Aeons. We're most certainly going to have to play it, and then it's just going to be a matter of, do we draw something else that we can also play? And so if we ramp ourselves up to 8 mana, we aren't going to be able to play both, say, Catalyst of the Aeons and Trundle. And so I think we just let the turn go. We're just going to go ahead and pass. If it's going to be one of these spots to where if he's going to try and, say, overwhelm our Sett, I would prefer that he just kind of has maximum health, to where if a Might is coming at us. Then I was looking at the It That Stares comes in on this turn, to where we decided to not go up to 8 mana. Let's see how this shakes out. All right, the Flare comes in. We're going to have to play Catalyst of the Aeons to survive. Not feeling real good about it. We're probably just dead here, but that was a bruiser of an opener coming at us. All right, so pretty good chance we're just going to get hit with something like a Decimate, but how do we want to try and turn the corner in this one? We have a couple of options, right? We can look to just Feel the Rush next turn, which might be close enough. The Sett isn't going to flip, right? If we have 12 mana for Sett, that's only going to get him up to 30 mana. And so we're going to have a tough time ending the game, even if we hit on our with things like Tryndamere. So I'm a little bit worried there. I don't think the ramp path is just the way to go about it either. But, like, It That Stares also kind of comes in and just clears out all of our own board. Is not ideal. Let's just wait and play Feel the Rush. Maybe we'll spike a win. I guess one of the things we could have looked to have done would have been to just play Trundle, and then after Trundle play the Ice Pillar, and then really just try and amp up on this Sett. Oh my gosh, we have so many perfect answers at just like all the wrong times in this game. Oh my gosh, She Who Wanders would have definitely cleared out our board problems, but... Alright, well, let's feel the rush and see what happens. We can still try and She Who Wanders next turn. I don't have high hopes for the She Who Wanders, but... is what it is. You gotta take your shot. Alrighty, GG. That was my worry. It's definitely going to take a bit of balance in determining how much anti-early game we're willing to play in a deck like this. Since I do suspect Samira is going to be pretty popular in this format. So as it stands, we're only playing the 3 copies of Blighted Ravine. We might need to look to start adding in like avalanches just to make sure we have some more early stuff. All right, round 2. What do we got? The true Champions Unlimited coming at us. I would suspect that this is going to be some kind of Spiders-style aggro deck. That's what you typically see out of Noxus Shadow Isles. So let's hang on to this Blighted Ravine. We'll also hang on to the ramp spell. See if we can't get these big spells online this time. See if our boy Legion Rearguard comes down on turn 1. Nope. You gotta feel good about that. Gotta feel good about that. All right, House Spider, you're legit. You're legal. All right, so we'll continue to ramp up. We'll get the Wild Mysticism on board this turn. Hopefully that'll be enough to stall our opponent on this upcoming turn. Let us get our Blighted Ravine online and active. Don't really want to be playing Blighted Ravine on our opponent's turn. That kind of opens him up to spots to where he's able to play around it a little bit easier, right? We would prefer to have the Blighted Ravine on board on our next turn, and then opponent probably can't open attack into us, right? He probably gets a lot of his board cleared out, and then that gives us an opportunity to add more spells in behind. Another ramp card's kind of interesting. I think I like it. So let's just go ahead and prevent as much damage as we can. And then we'll plan to play Wild Mysticism this turn, Blighted Ravine next turn, and then look to be getting our big spells online after that. I would imagine She Who Wanders is pretty close to just ending the game against this deck. He does have some big champions in here like Hecarim and Swain, and Swain dies to it, but Hecarim makes it, Darius makes it, and so it's not a complete KO, but it should remove the majority of their deck. All the Wild Mysticisms. see how many more of these things we can get on board. Now, we'll try and play it next turn. If we can get it down next turn, that'll get us up to 9 crystals. Then 2 turns from now, we'll be at 10, and we can try and drop the She Who Wanders. But see, this is exactly what I'm talking about for the Ravine. He doesn't want to play units into the Ravine because they're just going to die. And so now, if he wants to open attack, fantastic. And if he doesn't want to open and starts adding more units, then we're going to get the chance to play units as well. And so it's a little tempting to kind of shy away from this plan, but I think this is okay. Like, if we're still going to just say Wild Mysticism and then next turn She Who Wanders, it can be 1 cheaper playing Winter's Touches, but like the only other real card we have in hand is Tryndamere, and so I think this is fine. We could play the Mysticism, and then we have the choice to either Flash Freeze or tag out one of these units. Buy us a little bit more time. I guess we would ideally be tagging out the Callista before she flips, although it's not a huge requirement. I mean, as it comes to it, we can technically just make 6/6s off of the Feral Mystic, right? If it was a different board, you could come in and consider just Winter's Touching up to 10 crystals to send the units back to hand, but not quite where I want to be. Recall an enemy. Let's send back Callista. It's like we're taking 5 on the round, and then we'll be ready to She Who Wanders next turn. It's a bit of a bummer we don't have the flash freeze mana. I don't think it's going to come into matter at this spot, but that's definitely a play you could look to make, is to flash freeze an opposing unit and then obliterate it with She Who Wanders. But not what's happening right now. See ya. Feels good, man. I miss playing some of these cards. Should have got our Aurelian Soul out in this one. Why can't we play 3 factions so we can include Aurelian Soul in this deck? That's the real question, as to why are you the way that you are, Riot? Saving the Callista. I feel it. I feel it. And then it doesn't matter. It obliterates, right? Curious why his Callista went up a tick. Did he kill the unit off of transfusion? Maybe that was what happened. But should be pretty safe here. We can flash freeze a unit. If he opens, we shouldn't take any damage. We're just going to be trying to set ourselves up for this Feel the Rush next turn. The Harrowing? Oh, fuck. I don't know if we can beat the Harrowing. I guess it's not that scary. You just don't have a lot of blockers for the turn. Alright, old timer, do your thing.
The past is done. Now I take what I want.
Send this Iron Ballista back to hand. We can come in and block the Callista after this. We have a real decision on this attack as to whether or not we want to. Oh, nice. As I say, we have to decide if we actually want to flash freeze some of this stuff, because our health is falling pretty low. But if we start playing spells here, we're probably not going to be able to. Feel the rush next turn. But they didn't take a very aggressive stance on the round. Feel a lot safer now. Party time. Alright, what do we got? Trundle on board, Ice Pillar to hand. Sett comes in. Sett immediately flips. Beautiful. You get to watch that sweet animation. Nice hair, bro. Now the Unstoppable Force, or the show, it's not Unstoppable Force, it's Showstopper, comes into hand. Gets us in a pretty sweet position. Now, this explains exactly why I hate Karma Sett so much. As you see this turn, we played our big, powerful spell. We get all this stuff on the board. We're going to be playing our Showstopper and everything. It's pretty easy for the opponent to evaluate. Oh yeah, I'm probably fucking dead right now, you know? Now, it's not to say that he can't interact with this, right? He can play a Vengeance onto Sett. He can block Trundle, be in a spot to where he's not just coming down and dying for the turn. But when you play against something like Karma Sett, you don't really have that information to determine whether or not you should concede. And so you probably should just concede, like 97% of the time. But, it's not there. It's not entirely apparent if the game is done or not. And it's not like the game is just immediately done. If they do have it, it might be a few turns from now. It might take them a couple turns to combo off, and it's just a bummer of an experience for me. But playing Feel the Rush always feels good. ain't nothing wrong with that. All right, GG, taking down a victory. No goose eggs for the Ionia deck today. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm interested to see what happens when Eternal is just the format that you have to play, right? Like, you don't have to play it, but the format that's the big one on the ladder. I don't think there's a game that's ever really cycled the formats like this to where it was so relevant. So kind of interesting. All right, though, we re-queued right into the same opponent. We know what we're up against with the aggressive style deck. I'm curious how much of this we would want to keep. I think we'd probably just get rid of everything. We want to find the cheap ramp spells, and we want to find Blighted Ravines. Kind of secondarily, thirdly, fourthly, we want to be finding the heal units, and none of those were there as well. But similar start, we're going to be playing this turn 3 Wild Mysticism. Hopefully we can get a little bit of support for it along the way. You can unnerf this guy now that he's an Eternal, right? He used to deal 2 to the Nexus. a true aggro bro. He was nerfed a long time ago. Riot must have gone and fired all the people that truly loved the aggro. Guys like Legion Grenadier dealing 2, the Imperial Demolitionist having 3 health, the wonderful things of the world that have been taken away from us. Alright, so here, no reason to attack. He can more easily refill his board than we can refill ours. Reasonable chance that he can get up to having 6 units on the board, and so the attack might just be overall pretty useless anyways. So we'll keep the Feral Mystic back, ready to block. Got Trundle ready to party now. Interesting. Take this. Or why would leave the other guys at home. Alright, we got the big troll on board. Let's see what he can do. Opponent must have a really awkward draw, passing with so much mana up there. Now here, I think this is okay. There's some argument to not make these attacks, right? Since this game, we're never losing this game if it drags on, right? If we get to the point where we're playing She Who Wanders and we're playing Feel the Rushes, opponent's never going to win. But the place we can run into a little bit of trouble is if opponent's going to have stuff like Scorched Earths in their deck. So they have the way to come in and take down Trundle and then attack around them. Now, this isn't the deck I would fully expect to see Scorched Earth, but I would expect it to be able to, say, block Trundle with a Legion Grenadier and then hit Trundle with a Ravenous Flock. Like, that wouldn't be outside of the opponent's wheelhouse, I don't think. And so it's a little dangerous there, especially if he has a way to, say, trade Trundle for the Spider and then still keep his good attackers around. But not the case in this game, and now we're looking pretty strong. We have the Harsh Winds to shut down this combat if we need to. He plays a card, we can Ice Pillar first, so we get to really just continue on with getting the blockers on board without losing out on any mana. And we'll see if it comes to fruition here. If we get to do the Ice Pillar bounce spell, I don't think it's gonna be the case, given that opponent doesn't have any mana left over here. But we'll see if we get to do the big old timer play this turn and bounce his whole hand. Like, even if it's just, you know, returning Swain. Like, if he's taking this attack of Battering Ram into Ice Pillar, then we get to come in and bounce Swain in team. That's not a bad round. Not a bad round. We could just open attack, kill him the next turn if we can get all these units off the board. So I think it's still pretty worthwhile, right? So we're going to Old Timer. It's going to return all the units, and then we have 12 damage from Old Timer, at least 5 from Trundle. He's going to attack for like 6 or 7 or whatever it is. Should be pretty close to lethal. Opponent says, oh fuck, all my units are gone. Oh snap, Bust, where'd my units go? We coming in here for 21. No guarantees. He can have stuns or vengeances or something here, but I think we're all ready to admit that's a pretty awesome and big collection of damage coming through. Are we ready to admit that? Even got this Deny in hand ready to protect from something. And I don't fully expect to win the game this turn, but we're pretty close. And then we're still at 17 damage into 16 even after the drains. And the Deny back up. Good stuff. GG. Right, on to the next one. All right, And so this was interesting to me. Watch it when the next screen comes up. It seems weird that the tournament icon things just kind of push over. I thought that they were supposed to be kind of like row by row by row, so you could see how spectacular you were in the first season, and then the next season's on the next row, the next season's on the next row. It looks like the new icons are just kind of pushing the old ones away. See if we can see it as the match loads up here. Oh, match is gone. See if it comes back in. But as our, I don't know, player banner, whatever that thing's called, loads up on the screen, it usually gets a little bit messed up in Champions Unlimited because they designed it for a certain number of champions, and then when you play 1,000, it just spreads out all over the screen. But let's see if it pops up here. Yeah, you see you've got it's like the 3 highest ones from the last season and then the 3 newest ones from this season or something. All right, though, up against Hecarim Zed. Now, in the past, this was traditionally one of the worst matchups that we could come in and face, in the sense that we just don't really line up well with their aggression, but having all this extra stuff in here with the Gwens and the Irelias kind of makes me feel like we'll have a little bit more time here. I'm still going to take a full mulligan. I want to find our ramp spells. Blighted Ravine isn't super good in this matchup since it doesn't do anything about our opponent's ephemerals, and so I'll go ahead and cycle it away. Just look for those Catalyst of the Aeons kind of cards. So we say Blighted Ravine is a no-go. Opponent drops Redeemed Prodigy. Makes us look foolish, but the Ravine finds its way back. It says, I got you, Bust. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like a dum-dum. I can help you out just a little bit. But Catalyst of the Aeons is fine. Let us heal back some of that damage. Get the Blighted Ravine down next turn. Oh, nice. Like seeing Zed come in as we're trying to clear out these plays, and then our mana is going to look pretty good as well as we get a 2-bank out of this turn. Next turn we'll have 6 crystals. We can play Trundle and Flash Freeze. That makes me feel pretty safe. So I dig it. I dig it. Rip Zed. All right, so yeah, not how I expected it to go with the Ravine, but worked for me and good. Yeah, cycle away this Sentry. Just almost guarantees that we're going to get to drop the Trundle this turn.
Dark times come and go. We play on.
Right now we're ready with a Flash Freeze. It doesn't look like we're going to need it. He's only got 1 mana left at this point, but it was nice to have had it. Alright, so this upcoming turn is a little bit of a bummer. We're only going to have 7 mana. Can't really play anything too compelling, but we'll see. Maybe something will turn up. Sure. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if it just, like, we have so much kind of like defensive cards in hand between the tag out and the Flash Freeze and the Harsh Winds, we could probably just tag out the Field Musicians and just be kind of okay enough with it. It's a fairly expensive unit. He's not really doing anything. I mean, I guess we would kind of would we prefer him to just play like Gwen and then we send Gwen back to hand? I don't think it makes much difference, but it is at least nice that he's playing these, more expensive plays. And ideally, we'll say return the Field Musicians, and he won't have the mana to return it.
Play us an anthem of Navori, or the verses you remember.
I don't feel like I really want to recall Irelia. Like, he isn't generating the flawless duets just yet, but she's basically a 2-mana champion. Let's return this Field Musicians. It's, again, just a little bit more expensive, and it was already up to 2 ticks if he was going to try and play a card this turn. He might get the extra card draw and stuff out of it. Nice to just get that dum-dum out of here. All right, nice. So we're pretty well lined up. I don't expect us to need to harsh winds this turn, but then we have the big collection of cards we can play between the pillar and then at the stairs and following up with Feel the Rush next turn. I like it. I guess I would think if we were, say, playing a normal Champions format to where an opponent was playing some kind of Irelia deck, we'd probably have to worry about cards like Deny. But, I mean, if we look at our opponent's deck and they're playing 4 different champions, even if they're playing like 2 of 2 and 3 of 3, so that's going to be like 10 champions in total, he probably doesn't have a ton of room for denies. And so I think our Feel the Rush should be pretty safe next turn. I definitely don't think we're in one of these spots to where you have to have it resolve or you lose the game. You know, we have a lot going for us this game, and so it at least feels safe there. All right, let's get these dum-dums out of here. Nice Extinguishing Ray should kill off everything except the field musicians, and then if he wants to say save Irelia, that's fine. It's not a big deal. Are you going to attack down our pillar? A sad day for Ice Pillar.
Fight for the first lands.
Sure. I think we can block with Trundle. Let's just let that go. Maybe we should have just been blocking with it at stairs. It's like, when he only had 1 mana, I was like, yeah, there's probably not a lot of things to worry about. You know, I guess you technically have to worry about something like Wuju style. But with him being at this stage of mana, going back up to 4, it feels a little bit more dangerous. All right, who's ready for the KDA music? Get yourselves ready, fam. It's time to get some sweet champions on the board. Who's having fun now? I certainly am. I don't know about you, I don't know about opponent, but I'm certainly having fun playing the Feel the Rush. Nice. Tryndamere comes in, Sett comes in, Sett flips, and it's so nice with the Sett. You know, one of the more classic plays that would shut this deck down was, you know, you play Feel the Rush and your opponent would play Buried in the Ice. And even if your opponent plays Buried in the Ice at this point, you still at least have a showstopper in hand to kind of clear out some of their board and stuff. So, right, he's recalling our Sett. Sad day for him, but we still get pretty good blocks on the board here. Now, it's a real question in terms of, do we want to open attack, or it's not really open attack. Do we want to attack back, or do we want to play the showstopper first? Right, if he's got a card like Concussive Palm or another bounce spell or something, he gets to completely shut us down. I don't think that's worth worrying about. I think if we get these units cleared off the board, we just win the game anyways. And if we have to wait 2 more turns to take down the win, it's not that big of a deal. So right, if he comes in and Concussive Palms or whatever, so it's not that bad. Alright, dude's got some blockers. Looks like we're coming in for 20, so it should be 18 after these 1 damage blockers get in front of our dudes. That's it. It's enough for lethal. I hope he felt the rush. GG. All right, next battle. So I'm curious. In terms of basketball in the NBA, I follow it if LeBron James is in the playoffs. That's all I can really devote to it. I am limited in my time. I can't devote every ounce of time I have to every interest that I have, and so when it comes to basketball, I decide that I'll watch it if it's playoff time. and LeBron James is involved. And so here recently, over the I guess a couple of days ago from this video will come out, one of the star players of the league, Draymond Green, got himself into a bit of a scuffle, a bit of a a conundrum, if you will. In the sense, can we just keep this whole hand? We're up against Talia Ziggs. If we're going to turn 3 of Mysticism into turn 4 Trundle, it's like I'm curious if we'll ever even play something like the Flash Freeze. Let's just hang on to the whole thing and see how it happens. But he's known to be I don't know if you would say dirty player is the correct term, but he's much more aggressive. He's much more rough and tumble, as you would kind of have the enforcer style players of the 80s and the 90s. He's most certainly what you would consider to be the enforcer player of the Golden State Warriors, and you don't have too much of that role anymore, as to where you'll have the dude that's ready to go out there and scrap and get into a bit of a tussle, if you will. And so in this game, he gets kind of wrapped up with another player. They're both falling down. The one player kind of grabs onto his leg, and so in the midst of breaking away from the guy grabbing onto his leg, Draymond Green just stomps on him in the chest. And I thought this was kind of interesting in the parlance of the current Runeterra scene, given that there's been the dramatics of the Runeterra Open, people making plays that should be fairly obvious, that are against the rules, but it's in some kind of gray area in terms of whether or not it should actually be legitimate, and people are just kind of waiting around to see what kind of ruling is going to come down. And I thought it was interesting, just the kind of reminder that turns up in every game. I'm curious what a lot of the Runeterra folks would come in and say about the happenings of the NBA scene there, and how harshly they should be coming down on Draymond. I feel like a lot of the crowd would just be saying, just ban him. Just ban him, right? Just get him out of here. That's the answer to everything. I get it. Like, I understand. I am in very much in the same vein. I would love to see all cheating just completely removed from the game. My problem with the just ban him approach is what you would also get out of what you would get out of, say, death row, or the death penalty, and your thoughts and feelings on that, in the sense that what are you willing to allow in terms of killing people that may be innocent, right? And that's what I see as a lot of this, kind of problem that you run into when you say, oh, Karashi, he played on 2 accounts, he's readily admitted to it, you should just come in and ban him. That's a little gray, I guess, if you're going to come out and say that. But if Riot are supposed to be the people out here policing and figuring out these situations in terms of was this a spot to where they were legitimately cheating? Did they cheat and not know it? Is this kind of a gray area? And that's the space to where you really start to run into problems. Is, well, at what point do you say, well, do you just permanently ban this person? And at what point do you run the risk of banning someone that was just making a legitimate mistake? And so I'm curious how that plays out, because, like, for me personally, and in the beta open, I played it twice. I didn't know that there was anything illegal to it. That's that's kind of a no harm, no foul event, and that it was just kind of for funsies. But I think it's a very easy and straightforward comparison to a lot of what we're seeing in the events right now, in the sense that, was it illegal? I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. I only played this last open one time, though. I don't have the time for that shit to play it on 2 accounts. All right, though, back to the action here. Let's see what we can do. We have a pretty reasonable board. We've come in and cleared out most of the stuff that he has. Our hand just isn't that strong anymore, though. We have a lot of reactive stuff. It seems like we should be okay just attacking. If he feels safe just blocking the Mixologist, I think that's okay for us. And then we can look to start adding in Blighted Ravines, clearing out his board a little bit. But, excuse me, I do feel reasonably safe in these upcoming turns, given that we have all of these flash freezes. So I think we'll be okay. Should we have played Voices of the Old Ones? I don't think so. I think I want to keep this full 3 bank into this next turn. I don't think we'll need all the mana, but if we draw a big expensive spell, I would like to be able to play, you know, our 10 drop unit along with playing a... I would like to, you know, keep the option if we want to play the giant unit to also keep a little bit of mana behind. So I think we're okay here. So far, he doesn't have any way to activate these sarcophaguses on the left. As it stands, we would need 11 mana to cast all of our flash freezes. I think that's going to be okay. Let's just go ahead and drop the Mixologist in now. That threatens some decent blocks here. We get a discount on the mana as well, since that's our second coin. We can get up to 10. He does have a way to blow him up.
This one's on me.
I'm a little scared of the Talia now, right? She's able to deal that 6 damage even if we flash freeze her. I think we're still okay up here at 20, but it's a little scary. It's coming in for 28 at this point. Flash freezes on the 2 5s. Make it be 16, right? 18 coming in. He shouldn't be able to pokey stick us down. That's a bit of a reach, but let's wait and see if he comes in and plays something like the Absolver, and then we can come back and flash freeze the Talia down. So now we should be safe for this next turn. We unfortunately don't have anything to do. Like our champions may be enough to carry us here, but we definitely may not be winning the game this next turn. If he has a quicksand, he can overwrite our overwhelms. I think we're probably stuck just open attacking. Like, I don't want to play the Wild Mysticism for the unit and then him play another way to stun. He's putting forth the blocks. Probably gonna have the quicksand. Does not. GG. Right, we did it. Victory achieved, victory unlocked. On to the next one. And so yeah, it's tough. I think Riot's in a bit of a bind. The Dave Guskin tweeted over the weekend that they were going to respond about the Runeterra Open stuff later in this week, and that's something that makes me feel really bad. Like it's easy to feel like, you know, you're the only person involved in this as you're rushing forth and trying to play in the Runeterra Open. But the thing that was really kind of bumming me out the whole way was, you know, the people at Riot are so passionate about this. They all care about the game so much. And to be in a spot to where you're you know, wanting to, say, pull up the old Twitter, pull up the old Reddit and see, you know, the kind of fruits of your labor and the excitement of the crowd and everything, and then just to have it just be a complete shit show has to feel terrible. Like, not only in the sense that you know, your baby, right? This thing that you worked so hard on did not go well, but even more so in the sense that, you know, like, you know, when you're gonna have a shitty week at work, right? You know, you've had that time. You're like working retail, and you're like, fuck, it's the week before Christmas, or, you know, whatever the deal is. You know, it's not going to be good, and so then to have to knowingly come into this upcoming week of work with just that lingering over your head, in addition to all the stuff that you normally have to do, it just sucks so much. I feel bad for those guys having to go through that, but you got to get it right the first try every time, or why even bother trying, right? That's that's how I feel a lot of the sentiment is. If you're not going to do it right the first time, it's 2023. You got to do it exactly right the first time, or you might as well not even do it at all. Fucking absurd. All right, though, we're up a battle against what should be an OTK deck. Riven, Samira, Lee Sin. I assume they're going to be out here trying to, you know, get these early game big punches in, and then close off the game with either a big Riven or with a big Lee Sin. Ideally, we can stop their shenanigans with our Frostbites and our bounce spells and everything. It can be a little challenging to do. once you start to incorporate spell shields and stuff into the mix, but hopefully we can do it. No ramp this game. Well, we had the one ramp spell, my bad. Did we? I don't even remember at this point. I've been talking and stuff. We had a Winter's Touch this game. So at least got that one going for us. Is he gonna flip this Samira? Neuter our Blighted Ravine? Looks like that's about to happen. I'm not entirely upset about this, given that a lot of this kind of functions like a combo deck, and if he's having to play 2 and 3 extra fragments just to flip the Samira to protect her from Blighted Ravine, takes away a lot of his OTK abilities, and so not terrible. All the tag outs. There's a Lee Sin. I'm just going to go ahead and send him back to hand. You know, ideally, the way that this is going to start to sequence out is he's just going to play a bunch of shit that doesn't matter. And then next turn, we're going to clear out his board with It Stairs, and 2 turns from now, we're going to feel the rush. We have the mana to kind of pull all of this off if we don't have to mess around with these dudes too much. And so we might have just activated it. He didn't have a deny for our bounce spell. Now, ideally, we won't be playing a Harsh Winds here, but if he's going to go all in on flipping this Riven, we might just have to kind of give up on Feel the Rush 2 turns from now. It's a tough spot anyways, in the sense that it's a tough spot anyways in the sense that if he's going to be trying to open attack on us on our next attack token, we probably can't. We probably can't play a card like Feel the Rush before he actually attacks. But here, I think this is okay. Let's just go ahead and try and recall Riven, get her out of the way. It does weaken us in the sense that she is capable of being killed by Ithid Stairs, and we're going to play Ithid Stairs next turn. But I feel like I'd rather have Harsh Winds in hand, given that it's a burst speed. And so it doesn't entirely get away from all of their kind of kill combos here, but you know, you can flash freeze a Riven and then they can still play more combat tricks on her. But I like having the ways to get around both spell shields and denies. Okay. Samira's at 3 of 6. Would not be surprised to see her rally this turn. That would probably be pretty decent for us in all actuality, in the sense that he's going to want to have, you know, the big power stuff on board, right? You want to have Riven on board, you want to load her up with a sword, you want to get all this stuff going, and then rally, right? See, oh shit, he's got a free flare. That's bad. I was gonna say he's just actually just messed all of this up, right? As he was going to enter the next turn with just 5 spells on Samira, so the first card he played would have just resulted in a flip, but that's enough for us. GG, my dude. Oh, tough. I think we approached that the right way. It's just a tough spot to have to try and deal with all that stuff. It's a deck fairly well positioned to deal with what we're doing. I feel like a lot of that probably does come down to the Samira. If we're able to just be dealing with the OTK aspects of the deck, it feels like we're in a pretty good spot, but she gives it so much longevity that it's like when you have Riven coming at you, that's a very singular focus, right? Riven's going to be trying to load up on the attacks and have 20 attack and come at you at once. It's very straightforward what's happening with her, but with Samira, she's like activating the abilities and dealing damage, and then starting to threaten with the rallies and stuff. She's pretty tough to come out and deal with. It was a bummer that our Blighted Ravine fell just a little bit too slow. All right, reasonable enough start though. We got a bit of interactivity. We got a bunch of ramp in here. We got a Blighted Ravine to maybe kill off a Samira. We're gonna hope that they just don't have Samira, right? That's going to be a much better angle for us, is that they just don't have the card. So far, so good. Ooh. That's a rough one for opponent, not having any plays through the first 3 turns. See if we can't capitalize on it. Alright, let's take all the ramps, I guess. Lee Sin to the party. Alright. See if we can send him back with the old timer, you know? We got our Ionia cards out here. We can we can answer a Lee Sin. Is that where we still want to be? Like we just don't want to be dying to like we want to be able to play Feel the Rush next turn without having everything go wrong. And it's kind of tough. You know, there's a very good chance that it's just going to get denied. Given just the way that the game has kind of flowed, you know, with him not playing any cards up to this point, I would assume that he's probably got a very spell-heavy hand, and so a lot of combat tricks and a lot of interactivity, just no units and champions to go with it. So it's a fairly dangerous proposition to be just dropping Feel the Rush when we don't have anything else on board. So ideally something like the Old Timer will stick. We might get a couple of these units on board. Ideally we would be playing something like She Who Wanders, as to where we're able to still have the unit, even if they have the deny. Alright, Lee Sin's ready to party. So this will send Samira back to hand instead of Lee Sin. That's okay. He can get a hook into the Old Timer, but not enough to get a kill. He's getting there. He's building up to it. That's for certain. All right, I'm gonna shy away from this Feel the Rush for the moment. I want to get more stuff on board. The Old Timer is surprisingly strong against Lee Sin, given that he has double strike, so we can potentially strike through that barrier. It's tough with Tryndamere turning up, though. I want to play Tryndamere. I feel like if he has an answer to one of our units, he won't have an answer to both, right? So if he has a concussive palm or something, it's not that big of a deal, but this way he should start to have some amount of trouble with one of our dudes. Old Timer, what do you got? Out here just punching dudes in the face? That's not very nice, my man. He's not even punching him. He's got his like fist claws up in the guy's face and stuff. Not a very nice guy. Not a very nice one. Alright, he did something, right? He got his Lee Sin to the point to where he can survive the double attack. That's fine. Probably the double cast spell. Probably just look and see. Yeah, it was a second momentous choice. He's only got one of those left. Still looking pretty reasonable here for our squad.
Our enemies cannot hide.
All right, there's the big flip and stuff.
The dragon will.
We should be able to handle this pretty readily. And don't tell me I can't play it at this time. Get out of here, game. So let's see where that goes. I suspect he's probably going to be playing some more cards after this, but we aren't really taking any damage here, and that's going to set us up to being able to play Feel the Rush next turn. And then if we want, we can continue to play flash freezes and the like. So I'm not ultra worried about Tryndamere getting sent back to hand. That's fine. Losing out on the Old Timer is the kind of questionable part here, and I think that that's probably okay. We can look to continue to like flash freeze Samira, so if he wants to keep trying to get these takedowns, he's going to have to play more spells. But I think it's okay to just give up on the old timer. I'm just ultimately worried. It's like we can play the Kindly Tavern Keeper here, and then we can play Feel the Rush next turn. But I still worry a little bit about us. Like, what do we do if he has a deny? That can be a bit problematic. But like at the end of the day, I think we're stuck still just playing one of these expensive spells, however it goes, and the Feel the Rush is just the more powerful of the expensive spells. And deny. Oh wow, that came way out of the left side of his hand as well. He just drew that one. Oh man. Are we really getting OTK'd this turn? He's already dropping GG's. And he's got a coin and a flare. So he's gonna need like 6 spells to Lisa and OTK us. I guess it's pretty doable. Oh, okay. Interesting. All right, momentous choice number 3.
Prepare yourself.
So far, this isn't lethal. We could look to just take the damage on this turn and then see if he's going to try again. I think that's okay. This isn't the biggest problem, so we aren't kind of preemptively dropping the tag out. That just like really ties into what he wants to have go his way, in the sense that, you know, if he's dropping a bunch of spells onto his Lee Sin and he gets the kick, and then he gets to rally and then kick again, it's just not what we want to see. We want to be able to not let him do this twice. Still probably dead here. This is not a great spot to be in. Yeah, we're just going to die to his units on board. Wild.
Drinks are cold and gossip's hot.
My lands, center your spear.
All right, this is going to be a tough one. We got to dodge a combat trick here, and I don't feel like this is the deck to where you're you're easily dodging them. All right, GG. That's a tough matchup, though. This is a deck that it's pretty well in tune with beating up on Feel the Rush. So, GG, my dude. Well played. I'm glad we got a good set of games, and that was good. We got in a pretty good mix as well. We got to play some mid-rangey stuff. We got to play against the combo thing. We got to get in an aggro deck, and so we can pull this up and talk about it a little bit more. And so the Feel the Rush deck, it's kind of interesting in the sense that it's always been one of those, you know, pretty polarized decks, in my opinion. Well, that depends. It really, I guess you have to say it depends on how you design it. If you're thinking of the kind of Shadow Isles versions that are just a mountain of removal spells, that's like a completely different kind of control deck, right? That's just a control deck to where the win condition is Feel the Rush, as opposed to being a more dedicated Feel the Rush deck. As to where what we're doing here, this is a more dedicated Feel the Rush deck, and this is kind of looking to outdo our mid-rangey opponents and our slightly faster control deck opponents, if you will. And so it's pretty good in this space to where, you know, if you're playing against something like Elites, you should smoke it. And then if you're playing against something like Karma Sett or Darkness or these decks that are doing control stuff, but they aren't going like super over the top, you do pretty well against those as well. And so basically, like these current days, like anything with, say, Nora in it, right? Those really, well, I'm just going to put a bunch of units on the board, block forever, and then maybe kill you with a Vagar. You tend to do really well against that kind of thing. The place where you tend to struggle is going to be on the really aggro end of the spectrum, and then against control decks like what we played against here at the end. And so I always felt like decks like Feel the Rush were best in kind of a best of 3 style meta, or you could get into some of these real kind of mid-rangey metas to where the top deck of the format is only like 5% of the meta and nobody's playing anything really directed, and you just don't have the density of the bad matchups to kind of shut you down. And so it's interesting. I'm trying to think to myself as to whether or not I think a deck like this could ultimately be successful in this kind of format. And I think if we were playing best of three, you could really look towards this deck being good because you could just come out and ban Samira. But I think that as we progress through this format, this is just going to be a absolute festival of Samira, and she's going to be just like the main focus of this format. And it doesn't matter if you're playing, something more aggressively oriented like we did in our previous video. If you're playing a more combo-y kind of deck like we just saw there, Samira is going to be at the forefront of these formats, and you just have to kind of be ready for it. And I think that this deck doesn't really handle that well. Like if you want to look at that last match and say, if we were playing something like 3 copies of Blighted Ravine and 3 copies of Avalanche so that we have maximum ways to answer the opposing Samira, are we really going to be able to beat them at that stage? And I doubt it. I just don't think that lines up too well. They just have too much of their game plan that doesn't really care about having her on the board. It's such a wild card, right? It's like... at least with that previous deck, they have so much time involved with it that you can kind of get around it. But I think this will be interesting. I think that once we kind of move away from Champions Unlimited, and then the Eternal format has the chance to kind of spread its wings a little bit, we'll get a better indicator as to whether or not this style of deck will be viable. But I ultimately think, at least from now until the end of this format, that this deck, you can probably pull off some wins, but it's not really the best thing that you could be doing. But I think that we're going to have to kind of wait on that Samira nerf to hit. She's going to get nerfed. That's 100% going to happen. I think we're going to have to wait for that to really kind of reassess how things are going to be. But with that in mind, this is still a really cool deck. I'm glad that we got to pull off all the really big and cool combos. We got to feel the rush and Sett into the showstopper. That's pretty cool. We were happy about it. We got to set up those turns to where we had Trundle on board. Then the next turn we play the Trundle Pillar. We play the Old Timer. We bounce all the opponent units. And then on our following turn, we attack for 20-something. We got to pull off all those big plays. That was all pretty well and good. But this is, again, a deck that doesn't really... hold its own against the aggro decks of the format. And so, if you're willing to look beyond that, if you want to just come out and do the flashiest thing that you can do, this is the way to do it, my dudes. This is this is certainly going to get you those highlight reel style plays, and I really like that aspect of the deck. It's pretty cool, if you ask me. And so, that is going to do it for us today. So, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So, this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.